Welcome to Chasing Hard podcast, where we talk about trusting God when life doesn't turn out the way you planned. And if you've been alive for any amount of time, you have experienced that. It can be life-changing situations or small things. I mean, life happens all around us. It just doesn't always turn out the way we planned. And so today I am talking with my daughter. You can always tell when it's a guest that I'm related to because they're usually sitting right beside me. So, hey, Brittany, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you.
Today we're going to talk about kind of a difficult time for you. And I know we all have a lot of difficult times, but um, specifically, I want to talk about stuttering. And, well, let's just do a little backstory. Stuttering. You didn't really talk until you were around 6 years old. You talked a lot, you just didn't articulate you didn't make real words. And then when you did finally start talking, you had a stutter. It was a severe stutter. And from the time early on, I don't even know how old you were. You were in speech therapy for years. Was it 9 years or something?
Um, I don't even know
Yeah, you
because
just
I actually don't have a memory going until I think we started working on the stuttering issue,
okay.
which developed later, as you said.
Yeah.
So probably 9 years. I don't
Yeah.
really know.
So I know that stuttering became like a big issue when you were probably preteen age,
Preteen.
I would think so. And so it was kind of difficult to know that you stuttered because you made a lot of sounds and you repeated the sounds when you talked. And perhaps you even stuttered before we could tell because you repeated different sounds. So before we specifically hone in on stuttering, do you have a memory of talking but people not understanding you, not because of the stutter, but
Um, I think, yeah, I have a memory of you said it talked till I was 6. I guess it was even before then. Like in my mind, I was talking.
yeah.
Um,
So did you just not understand why people weren't understanding you?
yes, because everything sounded great to me.
So you thought you were saying the words you wanted to say.
I was talking just like you were talking.
Okay. Which is interesting.
So yeah, you all said you didn't understand me, and then part of me was like, "What am I doing?" Because I heard it,
You're saying the words and you heard it.
I heard it right. So
Interestingly, we've not really specifically talked about this specific thing.
yeah.
We talked about everything, but not specifically what did you think when you were talking and people couldn't understand you? Because no one really could understand you except for your younger brother, Jacob. And
Well,
we think now he was just making things up.
I don't think he actually did understand me. I
No, I
think
think he did.
he was making it up, but
We joke about that because usually he knew you wanted ice cream or he knew you wanted to go to the park. So we've joked about that, but I think y'all had a special sibling thing going on, kind of like twins. And he could understand some things you were trying to say. And
okay.
then maybe he did fake it some. I don't know. So on to stuttering. Interestingly, my dad stuttered pretty severely when in my growing up years, and he did not as he got older, the stutter was lessened. And gosh, when he was in his 70s, he didn't really stutter hardly at all, which has been the case with you, but not obviously you haven't reached old age yet. So I know you were involved in what was it called? National?
National Stuttering Association.
Yeah. Um, and that probably normalized things for you some to be around people who had to deal with a stutter on varying degrees. Um, so as as a teenager, I know that um, got in the way of you being able to have relationships with your peers.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, I think I account it to like, well, I'm going back to mainly with this was when like I was in high school and when um I think is when I really noticed it got in the way a huge deal. I guess at that time frame, high school is tough anyway. So at that time frame, like I knew in my head, like I knew that I wanted to have friends with them, but I don't, or to be friends with people
Right.
or to have friends. But I didn't foresee but I didn't really want to have to talk because I even though I didn't really care that I don't think I ever cared that I started.
Actually, you did not.
Um, I could tell they didn't like it really.
And when you say that, basically you mean that made them uncomfortable.
Yeah, basically, not that they didn't like it, but I could tell it made them uncomfortable. So in my mind, the best way to do this, I know I looked awkward sometimes, but the best way to do that would just be to stand there and hopefully they will get the picture. Oh, I want to be in the conversation, but I'm probably not going to talk that much, especially if I know I'm going to say something that I'm going to stutter on because I had
Yeah, specific.
but I usually tell I have specific sounds that were harder for me to get out than others. So
And interestingly, B is a hard sound for you, and your name's Brittany, so there's that. Yeah. Um, so I know you didn't like when people, and this is a common thing among people with a stutter, when people finished your sentences. Well, let me just back up. The
I'm gonna
yours, and you can
yeah.
address that in a minute. You're stuttering. A lot of people get stuck on one sound. I think that's the most typical. You had these long pauses, like you would get stuck, but no words were coming out of your mouth. You were stuck basically in your head trying to get that sound out. Um, and so you would be in mid sentence or whatever and get stuck on, we'll call it a B. So you would say, I brought, and then you would get stuck because you couldn't say brought. And then there could be a minute to 2 minute pause. And so I'm just saying that because it's it would probably make most people uncomfortable. They wouldn't know what to do in that pause. Like, especially if they're not around a person who has a stutter. Like, what do I do? Do I help them? Do I just wait? Um, and so as a person with a stutter, you preferred what?
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of gonna. So I feel like I kind of went in between on the two. I usually didn't like for people to finish my sentences. I would like to get out. But I think sometimes if I was really stuck or something, I'm like, please finish it because then we can move on. Like, like if it's obvious I want to say my name is Brittany or something, like
Right.
please finish that
Okay.
because then we can move on. But but then a lot of times I think the issue was they think they knew what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they said it. I was like, no, that's
No.
not what I was gonna say at
Okay.
all. You just are assuming. So that's an issue. I
Well,
think I kind of got in the not to like because I was involved with the National Stuttering Association. So not to like talk badly. It's something because that did have a way of shaping my view
sure.
towards stuttering. But I knew like like a lot of the people I knew from there, they'll prefer you not to
Right.
finish like
Yeah.
their sentence. So that kind of in a way shaped me. I was like, oh, so I should it I guess it gave me a more confidence that I could even
That's
so
cool.
finish my sentences. So that kind of, if this makes sense, that
Yeah.
kind of shaped me
Sure.
to I would rather just say what I was going to say.
Yeah. So from a parent's perspective, and I'm gonna talk to parents for a few minutes that have a child with any kind of a speech difficulty. It's hard because You want to know what your child is thinking, feeling, wanting. You want to be able to have these conversations with your child, and that's greatly impaired, especially the first 6 years when we really didn't know what you were saying. And that's a grief issue. I mean, I had to grieve that. That was a sad, hard thing to not be able to have these cute conversations with you, even though in your head we were having them. And so and then when you did start talking and the stutter presented itself, I was one of those sometimes who finished your sentences only because I was running out of time and I was impatient. And that, again, we had some guilt and shame. I had some guilt and stuff I had to deal with because I knew it was respectful to allow the person to finish whatever thought they had to say. So I'm just saying that to parents, like, I get it. Like, we're not perfect in any way or any shape in any of our parenting. And so if your child has some kind of a speech impediment and you know the right way to relate and sometimes you don't, it's okay. Give yourself some grace. Yeah, I mean, we all mess up and we all will, and it's okay when we do. And especially if you own it and tell your child, hey, I didn't mean to finish your sentence. I do really want to hear what you have to say. I'm just in a hurry. And I think I remember doing that with you a few times, probably not every time, but so
I think, yeah, I think you did. I'm trying to think back. I don't know that I have can think of a specific time even that I think for the most part you did wait. I think yeah, there was probably times
oh yeah.
that you could finish, but I don't know that I think of a specific time. So
Okay. So on this topic of trusting God when life doesn't turn out the way you planned, there had to be times that you were pretty mad at God for not making you, and I'm going to quote, normal, that you couldn't talk normal, that you couldn't relate normal because, hey, you're a teenager. You want to have friends. You want to hang out. You want to go do things. And not a lot of people gave you that space to do that. Anger, mad.
yeah, so it's interesting because I don't ever know that I got mad at God for that.
Hmm.
Um, there was definitely anger. A lot of it was towards other
People.
people because in my mind, I was like, looking back, I can see, especially in high school, like I'm talking about, like they just want to do their thing. Like life's busy. They want to fit into like
Yeah,
just as bad as I want to fit in. And it, like, so I get it now. But in my mind, I was like, why can't you just take the time to listen to me? Like it's because what I say is like because because I don't know. Like I think it's worthwhile
sure,
to listen to what I
sure,
have to say. Like
of course.
I didn't see a problem. So I don't know, and that's I don't think I ever was mad at God though for
Okay.
that. More so I took a stance of being mad at
Other
other
people.
people when they didn't want to
Right.
listen to what I had to say or didn't want to be friends like I wanted to.
Yeah. So we have to give a shout out to this one girl who actually did, Maggie, actually took the time to listen. And she may sometimes have finished her sentences as well, but your stutter didn't put like that didn't put her off at all. She didn't
No.
avoid you because she was afraid you were going to stutter because you were going to stutter. And so Maggie was like a gift from God, I think, for
Oh, for
you
sure.
in your growing up years.
Yeah. And we were like, I mean, she was younger than me, so
Yeah.
she was like, she's Jacob's age, so like a little
Yeah.
bit,
It's about 2 years.
yeah, about 2 years younger. Um, um, but yeah, looking back, I'm like, she was definitely a gift because like we would hang out, like that's who I would
Yep.
like. We would play
Yep.
games, whatever. I would sleep over at her house growing up, like we were friends,
All
and
right.
like I don't. I think for the most part, she would even listen. I mean, not gonna say she never finished my
Right.
sentences, but like, it didn't really bother me because for the most part she would,
Yeah,
and
she
like
would. She would hang. And Maggie actually liked to talk a lot herself, so maybe it was just a perfect fit. And I'm kind of kidding, but Maggie did like to talk.
no,
And
she
so,
just like to talk.
and I do remember too, because I was a lot of times I was the mom driver taking kids places. Our van would be packed with kids, and so I remember being in the car when it was you and some other girls, and like I was sort of your voice. This was before you, I mean, and this is
Be-
when you wanted to kind of just be a part of the group.
yes,
So
yeah, before I was involved with the
yes.
National Stuttering Association.
So I would try, I mean, I just did it in the car. I didn't do it a lot. I would try to give you all space when we were at the house or we were visiting someone. So in the car, it was a little different, a little difficult. And so I did kind of take over and become your voice. And I never, right or wrong, it's just what I did. It didn't hinder your friendship, especially with Maggie, at all. So it's just what we just did what we had to do to, I think, get by during that time. So yeah, I don't know if you had thoughts about that.
Actually, I know. Well, I do remember that for sure. I don't know that I had negative thoughts about that because I don't even remember. I don't think you would do it if it was me and Maggie in the car
Probably not.
because, like, we just were friends anyway. So,
Yeah,
like, if she was comfortable enough, obviously, with my
and
stutter.
she was, yeah.
But I feel like for whatever reason, if we were sometimes we gave people a ride home or something just because you drove
All the time.
everyone
Yeah.
around everywhere, it seems like. So for whatever reason, like someone else, another peer was in the car that you would. And I don't think I had a negative thing because I think I was kind of uncomfortable probably in that situation.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, probably not wanting to communicate a whole
Yeah.
lot.
And it was, I think it may have been easier, kind of more easy in a group and especially in a car because they were all giggling and talking and laughing. And you could definitely join in the giggling and laughing part. And who could get a word in edgewise when you get a bunch of girls together? So that probably wasn't as big of a deal as different groups, like at a party or something, and people are in their own little groups anyway, and you didn't really have one. So you would try to join one and knowing you didn't really want to talk because you didn't want to get stuck. And then that was difficult and it was hard as a parent to watch.
Yeah.
So you don't really, you stutter some. We heard you a little bit, but you don't stutter very much at all anymore. And why?
No.
Why? What happened?
I'm actually probably starting a little bit more now for some reason. I think because when we talk about stuttering, I decide I want to stutter. I don't know. But like, so I think I remember the first you found out about the NSA is the National
Right.
Stuttering Association. Um, but you found out about them through a newspaper article. I don't even
I think it
remember
was. Yep.
the story on that. And that I think started my journey. I remember the first time you took me this closest
It was like 2 hours
chapter
away.
was 200
Cincinnati.
hours away in
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. I remember actually it was St. Patrick's
Yeah,
Day.
it was.
Um, and that I think I remember because that did like that night did change my life in a way. It started
It
the
did.
journey of more so just meeting because before then I didn't really know anyone. I
Just
knew there was someone else,
granddaddy.
but Granddaddy in my mind didn't stutter even at that point. Like he
Okay.
did, but like I was so severe. Like
Yeah.
it would take me 5 minutes sometimes, and like he did, but like it was just different.
It was different, and his stutter was different. He would be he would get stuck on a word, but he would be like a ta 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 ta
Yeah,
sound,
it wasn't.
whereas you had the long pause.
It wasn't as. I don't think looking at our stutters, they were different. So it wasn't like
Yeah,
I was looking at it and saying, "Oh, like I can relate." Green Eye stutter, and plus, like he's older, like he's
yeah,
my grandfather, so that may
right.
have had a difference. But like I think just going to the meeting and just being around other people who stutter. I was like 20 or 21, so I was,
Older.
yeah, older, young adult basically.
Yeah.
Um, but I had this thing that I couldn't, in my mind, I was like, how am I gonna even amount to anything? I think I was helping in the cleaning business because like, how am I gonna
Mm.
amount to anything? Because I can't speak. Like, I can't speak, so there was gonna be an issue. So I think just seeing adults
Mm-hmm.
um who even some who did have
Oh yeah, for sure.
severe stutter
Yeah.
and they had jobs like
Yep.
living their lives and it didn't stop them.
Not at all.
And
I
I think,
remember Jason was a teacher actually.
yeah,
And
I was
so,
like, how can you in
so
like his stutter was not just a slight stutter.
no,
It was
but the thing with Jason, and Jason is no longer with us, God rest his soul, died very prematurely. But Jason, and some people have the ability to not stutter. It takes like a lot of energy and a lot of willpower, but they can force themselves to not stutter in situations.
there's a name for it.
There is, and it's covert.
Covert stutter.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so Jason, as a teacher, wouldn't really stutter.
You basically train yourself how not to stutter.
Yeah. And so there are people in our midst that you may be in a conversation with and you thought you heard a little bit of a stutter, but then you didn't ever again. They probably, not always, but probably are a covert person of
I
stuttering.
think it's covert. I could be wrong.
No, I think it is.
Sorry for the
So is there anything else that I obviously that I haven't touched on that you wanted to talk a little bit about and the stuttering?
so I think obviously so I think kind of to how it to relate like that obviously just getting involved. I went to the conferences and stuff
Yeah.
and like it changed my life and how I felt. And not that it was an immediate thing that I
Right.
did not stutter because it wasn't,
No.
but it changed my life and how I felt towards my stuttering. And then I started getting more just
Confident.
confidence and like, I can have a life, I can do this. And I say that that's even shaped me into being like, I volunteered with the Shine ministry at church
Which
and
is what is shine.
sorry it's the disabilities ministry basically.
Yep.
And it just kind of shaped my life into like, I don't know that I would have such a heart for someone with special needs if I didn't grow up experiencing hardships
Yeah.
or like even feeling like in a way I had special needs
Yep.
because so it just shaped me to like,
Yeah.
and it was kind of hard to even to do that at first because I was stuttering
Yeah, you did.
kind of badly at that point.
Right.
Um, but it just, yeah, it just gave me the confidence
Right.
that I can. So
Well, and so another thing that you do, and I think when you first started doing it, your stuttering was more prevalent. You're a high school ministry leader at
yes,
church, which means you have a co-leader, but you all lead a group of teenage girls. And when you first, so this is your second group that you've gone through freshman to
freshman,
senior.
senior, and then senior. So
And I think the
8
first
years.
group you did started quite a bit. And I think I mean, so I guess the only reason I'm saying that is because kudos to you for doing that, to be brave enough to do that, because a lot of people aren't. A lot of people would and do just consider themselves, they get stuck in that I can't be anything or do anything because I have this, whether it's a stutter or whatever. And God can use us where we are. And so as you stepped out to allow God to use you, and whatever other reasons, your stutter is hardly present these
Yeah,
days,
and
except when you get
actually
nervous or whatever.
thinking back, and I think I did start. I was like, I should pour into high school students. Like I went to
Mm,
Byron Beach, then it was Byron Beach, which is their camp,
yep.
basically.
High school camp.
Um, um, but like even I was thinking, well, I can like, how can I help girls because of high school's tough.
Yep.
Like no matter what you're going through, what you're facing,
Yeah, for sure.
like high school is tough. So I was just thinking, how can I step out and help girls and help young girls yeah, like how can I
Hmm.
help them? And how can I be,
Yep.
show them Christ or whatever. So I think that did, even though I think I did stutter, I don't remember ever being an issue though.
Which is kind of surprising because high school girls can be mean, but
Well,
you didn't really encounter
no,
that
because
as a
I
leader.
was like, it wasn't like I was open. Like I would always say, "Hey, if I get stuck, it's because I stutter." And like,
Right.
I guess it's just in a group setting, so they're not gonna like.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're gonna say anything.
Oh, they can.
Like,
Mean Girls. Ever seen the movie Mean
yeah,
Girls? Yeah.
well,
Yeah. All right. So I guess we're gonna
yeah.
land this plane. We're gonna wrap this up, but I want to give you an opportunity to say whatever you want to say to whoever you want to speak to. Whether it's someone with a stutter or someone who feels different, who doesn't feel like they fit, um, from your heart, like what would you say to them to encourage them?
I guess I would just say, just kind of. I guess I would just say, just kind of just to hang in there. Like if you feel, I don't know, if you feel different than like the rest of your peers, or if you feel different, like just kind of hang in there and really just own, or just like be confident in like who you are. Because look, well, like as you grow in an adult, like being different is not like a big deal. Like we're all different,
We're
I feel
all
like.
different. Yeah.
So be confident in just who you are and just what can you, like don't let your struggles stop you from doing what you want to do,
That's
even though
good.
it might be hard.
Yeah.
So
Because our struggles don't define who we are. We all encounter struggles, like Brittany said. We all have different things that we have to deal with. And God knew when He created us, according to Psalm 139, like He knew us before we took our first breath, and He knew the things that we would encounter. And He knew I would sometimes be a crappy mom to Brittany, but He chose me to be her mother anyway. And so to rest in that, um, on this side of things, is really important and will help a lot, and opens you up to be used by God. And then on Brittany's side, for her to rest in that, it has opened up opportunities for her to do things that she wanted to do that she thought she might be limited because of the speech issues, and now she hardly has them. So look what can happen. Yeah. Well, thanks for agreeing to be a guest on your mother's podcast.
yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, listener, for joining us. I'll be back next week, and I hope you are too.